Your weekly touch-up and artist-led weekly live music residency celebrates 100 weeks of South Africa's alternative soundscape. And so launched back in January of 2023, this initiative has rapidly evolved from a modest vision into an essential fixture in Joburg's cultural landscape. So the concept behind your weekly touch-up stemmed from a deep-rooted desire amongst artists for a consistent, safe and welcoming space where alternative musicians could thrive, and curators and performing artists, ByLwansta, amongst the people I know, and Elder Third, of course, sought to create an environment that they themselves wished existed. It's a midweek sanctuary that fosters direct connections between performers and an engaged community at large. And so this morning, ByLwansta, Tebogo Mosane and Mkuseli Bandezi joins us to chat a little bit further. Good morning to all three of you, and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Let's look at the need for this type of initiative, where it would have stemmed from, and its evolution 100 weeks in. Who wants to take that?
So I'll take it.
Okay.
As a dance nation, it's inevitable that, primarily events in Joburg will be dance music or DJ based,
Sure.
So as a result, we are instrument players, vocalists, rappers and singers. There's lack of spaces for this music we want to hear, and by dance music, predominantly it will be amapiano, drum, tech, Afrotech, and the very few live music events are catering for the A-listers musicians, so the emerging artists having to put shows together by themselves become a very tiresome purpose or engagement that one would want to take, so where DJs, it's 2 USBs and a deck and a PA, where we have to carry drum kits, guitars, XLRs and all of these DIs, so we saw it best to, take that labor of love to create a space that will cater on a regular basis, on a weekly basis, not even once a month,
Exactly. And so you're giving the people what they want, and it's also happening midweek, which is amazing. And I think post-COVID as well, given the lack of live performances that we were able to have in person, I mean, this is reigniting that spark and
Absolutely.
the importance of that as well. It must also come with challenges. I mean, you've spoken of, I can imagine, beyond resources, beyond logistics, literally physically carrying your instrument.
Yeah.
Tell us about that journey 100 weeks later.
I'll jump in. I think, challenges-wise, there's always going to be challenges, but I think something that we always say internally is that when you choose a career within the arts, you unintentionally subscribe to entrepreneurship, right? Nobody necessarily asked for what you were doing. When we started the Wednesdays, no one necessarily asked for it, but now we're 100 weeks in. We were able to do nurture and develop and cultivate an audience around this. So, with entrepreneurship, you're always building from scratch. So, us having assistance from, our friends, JM, supplying us with sound and the likes, like on the low, so challenges, that go past, finances, like, carrying sound every single day. I think in the first year, I developed back problems. And, and then the second year, we moved to Mamagashaga and friends. We had Baba Black Sheep. And then, the sound was there. So, okay, cool. Things get easier with time. But I think doing it weekly, the only challenge is really just, always finding your why. Constantly every single Wednesday. The reason why we show up every single Wednesday, I believe in selfish reasons. I get to host, I get to perform, he gets to DJ, he gets to perform, and we curate together. It's a privilege as creators.
Let's reframe that. You give to share of the gift that's inside of you, and we're better for it as a result. And it's resonating because you're the vessels and you birth it, and you can't control how it's received. And I think that's why when we look at, I wouldn't call it a movement, but people buying into the concept as well. You're also affecting the value chain at large. There are talks or calls for a nightlife mayor, because people are saying there's a cultural economy that's happening. Oh, is this the nomination? No. Okay, but I mean, obviously this is how it starts. And if we're looking at the artists that you allow to be part of the platform week in, week out, I mean, tell us a little bit more about that. Also just how it's affected the value chain, because now obviously people need transport, so that's affected. Safety and security has to be looked into. There's other people, lighting, etc. So that's a bigger vision. I'm sure that must be daunting but exciting.
Yeah, it is. I see someone is looking at me here.
So, you're going to take the cue.
It looks like that question is coming to me now. I mean, it's interesting how the nightlife works, where it's not only the DJ and the artists that gets to participate.
Yes.
I mean, with the venues, you have the bartenders, you have the security guards at the door, and you have the staff in the venues at large. So it's beyond the artists that participate in what we're doing. So for that reason, this is needed in the space of building communities and affecting the overall communities where it's creating jobs, you know what I mean? Even though artists like to complain every day that they're not getting paid, but at least they do their bit to create the jobs for other people in the industry as a whole.
Yeah. And you're also creating that alternative music scene. It's I am thinking about if you're looking at memorable moments as well that stand out as a result. You can't control what's going to come through in that performance, especially if it's live. So tell us about what stands out on that front as well.
So to answer also a question about what type of musicians we have, it's like we get like from your novice, people who've never performed a single day in their life. We even had Lusanda debut her performance, on our stage, to some seasoned, musicians and these A-listers, that we speak of, that really asked to come join us, So yeah, it's truly, truly, truly a privilege to learn. I think the biggest thing for us is to learn how to be fluid and, change your mind and fix problems like right on set, So because we never know how a Wednesday would go.
Exactly.
And there's quite a lot of moving pieces, and where everything is timed from 7 until midnight, but there's a schedule that goes with that, like constant meetings with the venue owner to adjust, curation or the type of clientele we are attracting, So it's it's in its essence, like he said, it's a business that most artists looking from afar, it will be scary for a younger artist to go into this thing. But, I think because of our selfish reasons, we are.
And you have to also balance being an artist, right? Because that's the essence of it all, that connection and that authenticity. You can't be too swayed by the business aspects. And I wonder how tricky that balance is. But also, 100 weeks in, right? So obviously there's a demand for this. So how do you envision this evolution and the growth as well?
So one of our strategic pillars internally is, audience cultivation and market growth, as well as, culture preservation. And in that, the latter, we've had some friends who've come in over the last 2 years with cameras, photographing and filming, and we were able to put together a documentary, that we're going to be screening on week 100. So this is just speaking to what's next, I think it's always important. I like to joke and say that if no one photographed it and nobody filmed it, did it really happen? Cultivating, and preserving culture. I always believe that, there's an opportunity for people to learn from this. 10 years, we're going to learn from this every time we watch a documentary again, because weekly it means like we're constantly on the go. There's rarely a moment to stop and reflect unless we do take a break. But the documentary is like an opportunity for us to look at ourselves. So, well, in hindsight,
we always learn lessons. Thank you and congrats. All the best. We'll see you at one of the sessions, I guess, as it continues. But this morning, Curators alongside co-creators are, of course, one of the biggest platforms for emerging artists in Johannesburg. It's in the heart of Joburg. ByLwansta, Tebogo Mosane and Mkuseli Bandezi. They're chatting about the weekly touch-ups, of course, being hosted at Mama Gashaka and Friends in Braamfontein. Let's leave the conversation there. We'll be right back after this.